Good morning, everybody. My name is Jenny Watkins, and I'm a certified facilitator with Access Consciousness. And today I'd like to share with you some of my favorite tools that I'm using every single day to contribute to me changing my life and how I feel about myself, to restore my sense of well being so that I can have peace and joy, and that doesn't matter what is going on around me, I can still choose for me, and I'm not the effect of what other people are choosing or what's going on or even around the world. So one of the first tools I'd like to play with or share with you is, who does this belong to? Now, we have never been given the awareness or told, I'm not sure that's the right word, but anyway, so we've never been told that we are actually aware of other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Now, we probably, if you think about it, could get a sense of how that works. Because have you ever walked into a room where somebody's just had an argument and the saying is you can cut the tension with a knife? Or as you approach a sports stadium, you get a sense of that electrifying atmosphere or dynamic or energy that's going on in that sports stadium. Or even when you walk into a concert, or so you go into different places and you can feel in your body and get a sense of what's going on energetically. Now, we don't often use the word energy either. It'll be like the atmosphere or the dynamic, etc. So I'm going to refer to energy because that's kind of easier for me right now. So if you're energetically picking up other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions and trying to make sense of them, do you get an awareness of how you are playing in other people's lives without realizing it? You say, for example, if you suddenly become sad or suddenly feel sad, and you didn't really have a reason to feel sad, but then you start thinking, okay, well, why am I sad? What happened? Oh yeah, yesterday da 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 happened, or this morning da 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 happened, or that da da da, or that's not working out, or whatever, and you'll find all the reasons why you're feeling sad. Now you've distorted your world into fitting in with something that doesn't belong to you. So one of the fabulous, fabulous tools from Access Consciousness is to ask, who does this belong to? And if it even lightens up slightly, return it to sender with consciousness attached. And the way you do that is to just say it in your head. Return to sender with consciousness attached. All those thoughts, feelings, and emotions that don't belong to me, I return to sender with consciousness attached. And you attach consciousness to it so that you can create a change on that energy that will be a contribution to everyone. So there's also, if you go onto the App Store, Access Consciousness have an app for this, where you can set a reminder every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you like, on to ask the question, who does this belong to? So that, and if you do that for 3 days continuously, you will suddenly start to get a perspective of how much you engage in a whole lot of stuff that doesn't belong to you. Now, if you get that awareness and you get that practice of asking, who does that belong to, and you return to center with consciousness attached, how much more space would there be in your world to create your life when you don't have to worry about everybody else's? I explained that if you've got a piece of paper and a black crayon, every thought, feeling, and emotion that you experience during the day, you draw a stripe or a line on this piece of paper. Is it possible by the end of the day that whole piece of paper is totally colored in with whatever color you've used? That's all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you have experienced during the day that you have now represented on this piece of paper. Now, what if most of that, let's say 98, 99% of that, isn't yours? So now white out 99, 98% of that piece of paper. There's a little piece in the corner of that paper that belongs to you, and the rest of it is a blank space. Now, what would you be creating your life, and what would you be choosing for you if you weren't worried about or trying to solve stuff that isn't yours? that could open up a whole lot more space for you. Would that relieve some stress? Would that relieve some depression? Would that relieve some anxiety? When you get actually all that stuff isn't yours. It's just wherever it is, whatever your sense of that is. If it's in the atmosphere, if it's in the universe, in the ether, whatever. What if our brains are like little radio transmitters and we are receiving all these signals energetically of all this stuff? But because we haven't asked the question, who does this belong to, we're taking it all in. There's different ways as well that you can get a sense of how you're taking on other people's stuff. If you're very aware, if you're very sensitive, if you're an empath, any of those things, you're going to get this energy pretty quickly from other people. And what if you're aware of judgments? So, and projections and expectations. There's things like, if you're aware of somebody expecting you to show up in a certain way. So for example, if you're at work and you're in the employee and you're sitting with your boss has certain expectations of you. You're aware energetically of those expectations. Then you're trying to change yourself to fit in with those expectations. And then along with that, when there's a lot of expectations, you have to judge yourself to figure out whether you fit in with those expectations or not. How much is actually going on for you in your head when you're thinking, feeling, and emoting and trying to deal with all that stuff and trying to change yourself to fit in with that person's expectation? Are you really being you in those moments? What if those projections and those expectations also don't belong to you? So you can return those to sender with consciousness attached so that you can show up as you. And whether the person's judging you or not doesn't matter, because you have your other access consciousness tool, which is interesting point of view. So interesting point of view is a fab way to deal with judgment. And here's my suggestion, is use it on all the judgments that you have of you first, because we tend to judge ourselves a lot. Most of the time, we don't even realize we're doing it. So if you consider how many times you make yourself wrong for something, or you've made something that you've done bad, those are judgments. Now, I have never, and I promise you, unlike most of us, I'm a master of judging myself. And because I've just become very disciplined at using this interesting point of view, I've been able to get out of that a lot. I'm not 100% there. I still have these times, and for me, mine was especially in the morning. I'd wake up in the morning and I will have judged something so that I can be in this weird space. And I've got really, really good at, my first thing is, who does this belong to? Oh, it lightened up. Okay, that's not mine. Return to sender with consciousness attached. And I can set a lot in my head until it lightens up and goes away. Because sometimes if you've done it so often, it might be a little bit solid. So you may have to do it quite a few times to return it to sender with consciousness attached. Return to sender with consciousness attached. Just let it go back into the ether or the universe. Return to sender with consciousness attached. Okay, those are interesting points of view that I have that point of view. Interesting point of view, I have that point of view. Interesting point of view, I have that point of view. Because if everything is an interesting point of view, you don't have to decide if anything is good or bad or right or wrong. It's just an interesting point of view. So take, for example, you walk into a restaurant. Everybody's perception of that restaurant will be different. One person will, the first thing they see will be the decor. The second person may see the table mats. Somebody else may see the wine glasses. Somebody else may see how the waiters are dressed. Somebody else may be looking at the food. Everybody notices something different. And if one person said, oh, the color of those walls is shocking, I really don't like them, and they shouldn't have put that color in because it doesn't match this, and somebody else says, well, those tablecloths are just appalling, and you would have thought that they could have done something better with that. Do you get that everybody's judgment of something is different? Somebody else could say, oh, I really love the way the waiters are dressed. That's very smart. But who makes those points of view right or wrong? What if they're just points of view? Everybody's points of view is different. doesn't make your point of view wrong, my point of view right, or my point of view right and your point of view wrong. They're just interesting points of view. Now, do you get a sense of the space that it can create in your world if everything is an interesting point of view? You don't have to make anything right or wrong or good or bad. You don't have to make yourself right or wrong or good or bad. Everything is just an interesting point of view. That could be quite a bit of relief, right? And then from that space, then you can start asking questions about the choices that you're making, whether it's going to contribute to you or not, or if it's going to contribute to the situation or not, which is not based on judgment. It's about, is this going to contribute and is this going to create more, which is a really different way of working and functioning in the world. And it's not something that we train to do. So I'd like to suggest that you practice these tools a lot and over again until they become natural for you, where the first point of call will not be judgment or to take on other people's stuff. It'll be, oh, okay, who does this belong to? Okay, that's not mine. Return to sender with consciousness attached. And then if somebody's judging you or you're judging you, interesting point of view, so that you can have more allowance for who you be and have more allowance for everyone else too. So those are two of my super duper fab tools, and please play with them and see what that changes for you. Thank you.